Hey there, this is Fritz Westover with Virtual Viticulture Academy and your host at the Vineyard Underground podcast. And I've got a question from the field, and this is coming in from Oregon, from William. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you because I think it's going to be an important question for anyone who has maybe a wonky, we're just going to say unusual situation with a wonky cordon out there that they're wondering if they should replace or not. So this is a photo that was sent to me by William. He wants to know about this cordon in the photo. He says, I have a lot of vines with cordons that are bent. Should I replace these cordons? If so, what are the best practices for replacing cordons? So this is something occasionally that we deal with, especially in older vineyards. Sometimes we replace cordons because they're dying back from a disease or a freeze event that's killed back some of the wood in the cordon. There's several reasons that cordons may need renewal in general for decline for whatever reason. But this case here, I think, is more a matter of a cordon that wasn't really developed properly with the shape that the grower intended for the vine. So we have here a vine that is growing on a bilateral cordon train system. And it looks like for some reason, either the cordon to the right here was cut. We'll go ahead and take a look at another close-up photo here. Maybe the cordon was cut because it died back in the past, and the grower, before William took over this vineyard, I think, took a cane that was coming from a spur position on the left side of the vine and bent it over to the right side of the vine. And so my question is always, is this cordon going to make it? Well, if you're using mechanical pruners or any type of mechanization, this could cause an issue if your fruiting zone is not equal throughout that vine. In other words, if the right cordon is sticking up and the fruiting zone is higher, that could cause issues with mechanization for leaf removal, pre-pruning, things like that. But if you're not in a mechanically managed vineyard and this cordon, although it doesn't look very pretty, is still very productive, has lots of good spur positions on it, there's really nothing wrong with keeping it. But if you'd like to replace it for some of the reasons I've mentioned, or just for aesthetic reasons, then you certainly could find a cane coming from below. And in this case, there's a nice cane coming from below the fruiting wire here. And that's where we could use an opportunity to lay this cane down here and replace the cordon. Now, one thing I will say is if you are planning on replacing this cordon, you can do it one of two ways. You could either lay the cane down to the right here and keep the cordon that is not desired in production for the same season, but you run the risk of shading out that cane that you're trying to develop for your new cordon. So if you're going to use that strategy, some growers will, but you've got to be really careful to shoot thin and clean out the cordon that is above your cane so you're not blocking out those shoots that are growing that will be your future spur positions. And if you do decide to cut back this cordon, whether it's this year or next, we do need to make sure if you're going to maintain this spur position in the center, you're leaving some space wood and cutting a little bit higher above that spur, maybe 2 to 3 inches above, to allow a little bit of space for dieback. So we certainly do have a situation where we can go in and remove this wonky looking cordon and bring a nice cane up. My final tip for you would be, if you look down below to where your cane is coming from, you want to make sure it is coming out of a part of the trunk that is not immediately adjacent to some old pruning wounds or large caliber cuts, because if that new cane is coming out next to a bunch of big old dry dead wood or cuts, it will probably grow in size over top of those cuts over time, and that further restricts the cordon or that side of the vine, and it kind of dooms it from the beginning. It can grow well for several years, for example, but may experience decline. So just make sure you're choosing canes that come from good, clean wood, where you've got good water and nutrient flow moving into that new side. So I hope this is helpful for you here. And I hope that this is going to, at least for some of you who have a few odd looking cordons in your vineyard, give you an idea of how you can either choose to replace these cordons over a 1 or 2 year period, depending on your production. If you want any more tips or want to watch other videos, or just check out and peruse all of the grower guides we have at Virtual Viticulture Academy, you can do that by visiting virtualviticultureacademy.com. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next one.